My dears, I had a comment yesterday from a fruit basketeer, Vivian Kimber, and I received this comment just a few minutes after I posted last night's broadcast, and I wish it had come through a little bit earlier, because then I could have given you Vivian Kimber's exclusive that Megs and Dregs were in Whistler, which is now known to the world. But you fruities are on it, you are on it. And Vivian Kimber whispered to me, "Dear River, I am a Canadian fan of a certain age. Just to let you know that Harry and Meghan, also known as the Gruesome Twosome, are in Canada at the moment. They are visiting Whistler, British Columbia, the next venue for the Invictus Games. They must be scoping the place out. I know this for a fact because my nephew is a server in a restaurant there and saw them. I think they are on the down low because there are no photos of them yet. Love your videos. Cheers, Vivian from Ontario, Canada." Thank you very much, my dear, and I'm only sorry that I wasn't able to give our viewers the scoop that that's where they were, because I did as you sort of suggested, and I gave it a Google as soon as that comment came through, and there was nothing all over social media anywhere. So your nephew knew before anybody else. And you know what, my dear, it's a shame. I don't know if he got his camera out, but he could have got some exclusive photos and sold them and done a back grid and made a bit of wonga out of them. Why not turn the tables on them? But my basketeers are always on the case. Always on the case. You're right there, my dear. But we are going to discuss the turkey twizzler and the sizzler of Whistler, acting like royalty, parading about as if they're on a red carpet, on their way to a throne. Have you seen? Oh yes, we'll discuss that. And we are going to cozy down for a tip jar corner. I am not going to put timestamps, but I'll put the time of tip jar corner in the description box if you just want to head there, or if you want to avoid it. Oh, and I've got something rather exciting to show you in tip jar corner as well. A certain royally signed piece of ephemera. So that's coming up. But it must be said that the only whistlers you'll find in the kingdom today are wolf whistlers. Wolf whistlers whistling in awe at our royal version of Red Riding Hood. Prepare to be dazzled by Her Royal Highness Catherine, Princess of Wales. Excitement was in the air as the Prince and Princess of Wales greeted South Korea's President and First Lady on behalf of His Majesty the King for the first incoming state visit since the coronation. The Prince and Princess travelled with Mr. Yoon and Mrs. Kim to a Horse Guards Parade ceremonial welcome where they were introduced to the King and Queen. Our Princess knocked 'em dead in red. This red coat by Catherine Walker and the hat by Jane Taylor. She wore Diana's sapphire and diamond oval drops, and I'm sure that you will agree with me that this look was instantly iconic. Regal, timeless, sexy, with a flash of the flesh. Absolutely, why not, my dear? These are the kind of pins that we like to have on display, aren't we, my dear? I mean, far be it for me to be so gauche or vulgar as to compare them to any other pretenders to a throne, be they male or female, duke or duchess, but this is the way that we like to see it, you know. If you've got it, flaunt it. If you ain't, don't. Do you understand? Sculpted and listen, they were. These thoroughbred limbs, not pipe cleaners. And as for the First Lady, or I should say the President's spouse, apparently I read that she prefers being called the President's spouse. It's not exactly glamorous, is it? But regardless, Mrs. Kim, now I don't know if you've already read this, but can you guess her age? Guess this lady's age. Well, it's 51. And she's so doll-like, isn't she? So doll-like. She could be cryogenically suspended. I have to say, I loved her grey tights. I thought they were fabulous. I really liked her style, actually. Yes, indeed, this is His Excellency Yoon Suk-yeol and Mrs. Kim Kyung-hee. And I relished the moment when His Majesty the King set his eye on his beloved daughter-in-law. That beloved daughter-in-law that he cherishes. Did you catch the moment? She came out of the car. Fatal. Fatal, the woman. This girl, she really has got it inside her. She really does have queendom inside her. Oh, What a fabulous mother for our future king and bride to another future king. Yes, she flashed another bit of leg, alighted the limousine or the carriage or whatever it was, and I saw that little look of appreciation on His Majesty's face. And also, I don't know if you've noticed, but he does a little expression of the late Queen's. Well, he does many of them, but it's a kind of sucking motion that he does and that she used to do with the mouth. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do it much justice, but you can see a glimpse of it there, and one can only imagine what he's thinking. But certainly pride would be on the menu, certainly pride. And not only with regards to Catherine, by the way, who gave a beautifully discreet curtsy to the king, but also to his Queen, who gave magisterial vibes in a blue dress and coat by Anna Valentine, and she wore Queen Mary's sapphire and diamond brooch. And that might pertain a little bit to what I'll be showing you later on in Tip Jar Corner. The hat was by Philip Tracy. Who else? We can enjoy looking over the state banquet this evening in the next broadcast. But for now, here is our Queen giving a keynote speech at the Foreign Press Association Awards in London, which is the largest and oldest association of foreign correspondents in the world. And wasn't she lovely there in green? It's one of the colours. It looks really nice on her, although what stole the show for me with those Van Cleef & Arpels earrings. Gorgeous, aren't they? We know that that is her jeweller of choice. And she's always dripping in Van Cleef & Arpels, but gorgeous on the ear, the way that they dangle and catch the light. Very becoming, very beguiling. The association was founded in 1888, when journalists from across Europe arrived in London to cover the story of Jack the Ripper, and decided to join forces to gain access to sources and news and networking, if you will. And the Queen spoke yet again about the crucial importance of freedom of speech, and she condemned abuse of female journalists and online disinformation. Hear, hear. And you can just imagine, can't you? You can just imagine if the dreaded daughter-in-law was in attendance at this event, she'd be tapping her on the shoulder, trying to show our Queen how it's done, wouldn't she? You're doing it all wrong, Cammy. Oh, Cammy, first of all, you've got to find your light, and then you've got to give a shoulder pop. Why do you look so nervous all the time, Cammy? This isn't how celebrities and stars behave. Be confident in the light, and show them the odd look and give it the old pizzazz. No, my dear. This was always your big mistake. You are mixing up celebrity and stardom with royalty. Royalty is way up there in the firmament, my dear. Above everything. Well, just below God, but above everything else, my dear. Above all of that. Hoi polloi. So keep it, love. Keep it at your basketball games and your stress patches. This weekend, the Princess Royal was in Gibraltar. She was attending the Gibraltar International Literature Festival because she's its royal patron, and she gave a speech celebrating literature and storytellers in Gibraltar. She visited automotive companies, workshops, communities, and the renovated premises of the Royal Gibraltar Regiment Association. She looked exquisite, and I do take back what I said about Anne in the early days. I always loved her, and I always thought that she could strike an extremely glamorous pose, but I think I use the word frumpy to describe her style from time to time. And perhaps it's because I associated it with the sort of coiffed up hair and a rather old-fashioned look, but I do agree with those of you who told me I was wrong at the time, and I completely take back my words. I think that she is exquisite and a marvellous dresser and always knows exactly what's right, and it's my fault for having been influenced, despite my love of the old world and the old ways. It's my fault for being so accustomed to the slovenly dress these days, and comparing it to that and thinking that perhaps she didn't look modern enough. Although I always appreciated her being her and didn't want her to change, so I want to make that clear. I always said that, yes, I'm remembering now that I never wanted her to change. I liked her being frumpy and fusty, but she wasn't frumpy and fusty. She's actually thrillingly modern because she knows exactly what's right and what suits her, and she gets on with it and looks immaculate. So, yes, well, we all need to learn, don't we? And wasn't this a nice festive image that was released of Catherine to promote the upcoming Christmas Carol service? Something to look forward to on Friday, December the 8th. Well, actually, I'm not looking forward to it because I don't especially enjoy, what's his name? Adam Lambert, who's one of the star turns. I don't like him. Nothing against him personally, but not my taste. Beverly Knight, okay, yeah. Don't mind that so much, but you know, I'll probably tune in for a couple of carols. But I've booked in to my own, because I love to go to Christmas carol services in our cathedrals and churches, and I booked into my first one with friends, and I can't wait. Love that time of year. And actually, I was walking through an English city the other day, and all the decorations have started going up everywhere. Well, they've been up for a while, actually, throughout the kingdom. And I was walking through especially tacky sort of Christmas high street. I actually enjoy tacky Christmas high streets, but this was a little bit on the Euro trash side, not especially poignant. And the stalls were useless. They were all selling, you know, rip-off T-shirts and overpriced Christmassy accessories. It was a sort of pound shop on stilts, really. Not something I was really enjoying. And then just out of the corner of my ear, I heard the sound of carols by a traditional sort of English brass band, you know, Salvation Army type affair. It wasn't the Salvation Army. It was another group of locals, sort of, most of them over 50 years old, I suppose, snowy haired. And there is nothing more beautiful. You know, I really realised in that moment, it was one of my favourite sounds when you hear a brass band, an amateur one. It's even nicer to me, and there's more beauty in it than the professional orchestras drumming it up. There's just something so poignant and nostalgic, and I do love carols so very much. I do love carols. So, ooh, yeah, getting festive. I'll be sick of Christmas by the time Christmas Day comes, you understand that. And I'll be like, get it over with right now and take down the decorations and stop decking the halls with boughs of holly or anything else. Out, I want it out. This time of year, the run-up, oh yes, we like it. Santa's on the way. But just as we look towards a warm and cosy Christmas, there's a sprinkling of Jack Frost in the air, isn't there? We had them at Halloween, and now they're coming to nip us on the nose for Christmas as they whistle. Meghan Markle actually has form with this, is it basketball? Sports isn't my thing, my dear sport. I think it's basketball, isn't it? Lacrosse? I don't know. She was there before anyway, with the Canucks. 2015 with my sweetheart, Heather Dorick. What would I do without this gal? You'd probably piggyback on some other friend to humble brag on social media. Ha ha! That's exactly what you'd do. Love a girl. Canadian viewers of mine, I'm sure, will be appalled. I'm sorry, my dear. You know, I adore Canada. I adore Canadians. But as we've spoken about before, and as you've told me, a lot of your country's going down the woke pit, as ours is, and as parts of America are, everywhere that's cherishable is becoming perishable. Canadian viewers will be appalled to hear that they made a fuss of them. They made a bit of a fuss of the Harkles, and they brandished them on social media. 2 new Canuck fans tonight. And I will say, even though the dancing was a little bit cringe-worthy, I will say I thought they both looked good. I thought they both looked really good for them. Nice. The lighting must have been kind of flattering. They looked lovely, I'm not going to lie, they did. Well, as lovely as... She looked lovely as Harry can get, you know. A good day. A good day. A fuss was made of them. Tonight, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. Can't blame them for getting the format wrong, because they were probably told by the Archewell team. Joined us to celebrate the Invictus Games coming to Whistler, February 2025, eh? And then we see, lording it he is, lording it. Never mind Duke or Prince, he's a lord, and he's going to lord it around Ontario and Whistler with my wife, who the rest of the family, all the men were salivating over. The alpha strut is what I call it, tottering along. We see them coming. And then he had the temerity, the sheer nerve and temerity to drop the puck. And what's wrong with that, you might ask? Well, apart from being entirely attention-seeking, he dropped the puck during a ceremonial face-off. And who was it that was doing it? In 2002, 21 years ago, Granny. Granny was doing it. So just as we discussed in the previous broadcast, they are trying to stamp the royal seal of approval on their own backsides, even after they disgraced Granny's memory. Yes, she was there back in 2002 during a 2-week Golden Jubilee tour for this, and she was there for a match for the same teams, exactly the same teams. What a coincidence. Oh, Granny must be watching over me, that's why, because I was her favourite. No, absolutely not. Still trying to convince the world that they are royalty. Puck off! Welcome to Tip Jar Corner, and if you sent a tip jar treat my way to put towards my charity shop finds or a cup of coffee, thank you most sincerely. I'll start off with the most special piece of today's broadcast. This book. Do you remember a few months ago when I shared with you an item that had come into my possession that was kindly gifted to me? It was a drawing by King Charles, made when he was just a young boy. A drawing. Well, you enjoyed that, and many of you asked me if I would share other things from my personal collection of royal related memorabilia and beyond. So I will drop in the occasional piece over the course of Tip Jar Corners from time to time, and I'll share one with you today in the form of this book. This book is called Windsor Old and New by T.E. Harwood, and it's a lovely book. It's about Windsor, obviously, and it's got 60 illustrations in it, maybe more. Lovely illustrations, some really nice poetry in it. This is the first edition, and it has a dedication inside. Actually, the first part rather tickled me because it's called The River. The inhabitants of Britain in prehistoric times were few and lived chiefly in the neighbourhood of rivers, which supplied them with food and drink, enhanced the fertility of the soil, and formed a means of protection and communication. I've actually got quite a few books about the rivers, particularly around London, and the ones that still go under it in a subterranean sort of fashion. For example, Fleet Street in London is named after the River Fleet, which I know flows through the areas of northwest London that I'm very familiar with. Yes, the dedication to this, I'll try and do a close-up for you, but it reads: For Miss Ruth Jones from Mary R., October 1930. Yes, indeed, dedicated by the Queen to Ruth Jones, meaning Queen Mary, who was, if you don't know, the late Queen's grandmother. She was Queen Consort, Queen of the United Kingdom, and her husband was King George V. And actually it means something quite special to share it with you, because when I ask you to channel the royal spirit or invite you to do so, really it is the spirit of Queen Mary. She is an emblem of pride in royalty. We know that she was a huge influence on the late Queen Elizabeth, of course, and she really took her role, responsibility, and more to the point, she enjoyed it. She really relished being royal, but not in a grand way. And I watch footage of her quite a lot that you can find on YouTube, British Pathé, this kind of thing. And I love to see it. I love to see the look of the younger royals in her face and her eyes that we see today. And so I like this. And this also came with a note on the Queen's personal note paper from the Queen. And inside, it's rather faint, I'm afraid, and in pencil and hard to read, but it says, I am delighted with the photographs. I have to go out now, but Wednesday at 5:30, be too late for Miss Jones to come to my room to explain the photographs. So just a very random note, one of hundreds. I'm sure a little piece of ephemera, but it just gives it an extra special sort of personal touch. And speaking of Queen Mary, some viewers will sometimes mistake my little statuette up there as Queen Mary. That's Alexandra. That's Queen Alexandra watching over us as well, another exemplary royal. And she's usually here, isn't she? By my side, but I replaced her today, you might have noticed, with another pair that I found. This was a charity shop find, £3. Actually, it didn't have a price on it. And I wasn't going to pay much for it, because to be quite honest with you, it is ugly. It's an ugly thing. I don't want it, but I saw it out the corner of my eye, and immediately I thought of you, my fruit basketeers, because you know that the painting behind me, which is actually my favourite painting really, has become an emblem of the broadcast of the channel. A pear among fruits. And I do like pear in art, but I'm very, very particular about it. So I don't like the look of this thing at all, but I just had to get it. It tickled me, and it was cheap, and it was for charity, so who cares? But, and I did try putting some stems in it, by the way, but it looked rather odd. So I'm just having it as a jug at the side for now. Maybe I'll put it in the background in future. Queen Alexandra will be reinstated at my side, don't get me wrong, but it was just another. But it has to be the right kind of pear. I'm very particular about pears. The reason I love the pear in the painting up there is that it is the most gorgeous looking golden pear, fat and plumptious. I have to feel that if I was to sink my teeth into it, the flesh would yield and it would be like juicy golden ripeness, you know, not those kind of green avocado-ish looking ones that have a hard texture. They don't do anything for me. And some of the paintings of still lifes, and pears in particular, can look rather scrotal, should we put it that way? They can have an odd appearance. Pears, if I find the very rare one that looks amazing, then I have to have it. But this was just for fun, but fun nevertheless. I don't have much in the way of second-hand jewellery to share with you lately, I'm afraid. I've got to go further afield to look at some other charity shops and a couple of vintage fairs that I know will supply. But this was an older piece that I thought was quite charming. It's a hair clip kind of thing with garnet petals surrounded by bright rubies adorning the points of the leaves, and it's on an antiquated golden clasp. So I'm looking forward to wearing that. Actually, I was going to wear it today because as soon as I saw Catherine, I wanted to wear red for you. Of course, I wore some red, I think, last week because I knew Korea was coming. I wanted to be on theme. I had this, and I had this necklace, which is rather tacky and rather vulgar, to be quite honest with you, my dear, but it was cheap and kind of fun, and I found it online. I went to put it on and it broke. So that's what you get, isn't it? You get what you pay for. And this was only a few quid that I found somewhere online, but I thought it would be fun to wear today. So I'm afraid I couldn't go with the red theme, but it was a bit of a happy accident because I'm actually quite pleased with how this turned out. I found this top this morning. I think it was £9 or £10. It's never been worn before, from another charity shop, and it's got leaves and foliage all over it, which I really love, of course. And I hadn't worn this headband yet, which went perfectly well, and I hadn't worn this necklace yet because it came as part of a parure, and I'm not able to wear my pierced earrings yet because my ears are still healing. So I thought, well, I can't keep waiting for months and months, and I took out the necklace and wore it today, and everything gelled together very nicely. It looked better than the red was going to do, so it was a happy accident. But I'll give you a glimpse of this diamante choker anyway, with a ruby cascade. Yes, it is tacky, it is cheap and cheerful, as my granny would call it, tat. It's gaudy, but it's fun. 8 red stones. And when I was a child, I would always be infatuated with this kind of diamante, you know, on this sort of articulated grid of diamante that you see running along. I would be absolutely mesmerised as a child. What am I talking about? I'm still mesmerised. I'll be mesmerised when I'm a senior citizen, my dear, looking over costume jewellery. Well, anyway, that went for a Burton. And then I also picked up this fairy collar, which looks rather pathetic now I'm holding it up. This hasn't been worn either, from River Island originally. Originally it was £25, but I found it in the charity shop for £9, and again it has a strip of diamante running along it. And yes, it does look a little bit pathetic, and it does put one in mind of roadkill of some sort, to be honest, my dear. But I know that I'll be able to dress it up at the right moment and fling it on when I need to, because sometimes this chair behind me reads very, very dark, and you can't see what I'm wearing if I wear dark clothes, and you can't see my hands and things like that. This kind of accessory helps. If I want to wear a black cashmere sweater or something dark, it just helps bring some lightness so that you can see the lines. Another piece of cheap tat here, but I wore it for you at a recent broadcast, I think, and it looks splendid, so I was very happy with it. And I'll be careful not to break this one. A juicy, sparkly, glittering array of silvers and diamonds to the throat, India pink rubies in formation with one larger droplet. To the bottom, framed in brilliance. Here is a fun tiara headpiece that I chose because I enjoyed the playful colourways. A Barbie fantasy, if you will, of baby blue, baby pink and grown-up diamante, on a band of yellow gold. I just rather enjoyed that playful theme and colourways, and remaining in that playful mood, here is a Care Bear badge. I couldn't resist it when I saw it. You know that I've got rather an obsession about the original Care Bears and the Care Bear stare. And actually, I was speaking about prayer in my last broadcast. I actually involve the Care Bear stare in my imagination in prayer and meditation. I'm not kidding you. I really, really do. I find it useful because they all have their different separate energies that they emanate, don't they, from their heart, and the emblem on their heart. I think my first Care Bear as a child was Tender Heart Bear, but here we have Friend Bear, Cheer Bear and Share Bear. But when they're all together and they all bring their different elements and they stare and they project their energy, almost like a spectrum of chakras, they're able to focus specific types of feeling. And I find that genuinely useful to help me visualize the type of energy that I want to send out and where I want to send it and focus it. Yes, I do the Care Bear stare, and I encourage you to, my dears. I picked up this frame that I found because I enjoyed the colour. It was second hand, but originally it was by Urban Outfitters, according to the original price tag on it. But I love the colour, and it reminded me a little bit about Friends for some reason, the sitcom Friends, and I think it's because they had similar purple colours as part of the decor, and then they had a frame around the spy hole, didn't they? Although I don't think that was mauve like this one. But yeah, for some reason it reminded me of Friends, this thing. And I placed inside it the postcard that I've shown you before. It's a vintage postcard with pansies, and it says, "All joys be yours." And I should put something black behind it to show it off. I was just experimenting to see what might go inside it, but that'll do for now. And we'll finish on this book that I found for £1.99 at an Oxfam bookstore, The Coronation of King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. Full of excitement about the first few months of the King's reign and the coronation, and lots of interesting little bits and bobs. In the choir were the Indian princess and representatives of foreign royalty. Even in this gorgeous pageant of scarlet and gold, the brilliant hues and glittering jewels of the prince's robes made a noticeable splash of colour. Nearly every main street and every little alley throughout the country was gay with coloured buntings and flags. Street vied with street to achieve the best effect. Here is a winner down in Blackfriars, the heart of central London. Prince Chichibu, brother of the Emperor, was Japan's representative for the coronation. He's seen here with his wife, Princess Chichibu, on the deck of the Queen Mary, on which they arrived from New York on April the 12th. And aren't they fabulous looking characters? I love them. Full of whimsy, full of curiosity and full of joy. Just like us, eh, my dear fruit basketeers? Just like us. Thank you so much for your company. I appreciate it. I really do. And for your fruity thoughts. And, as I say, anybody who contributed towards my tip jar, you're very kind. And I really do sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, my dears. I'll catch up with you soon. Toodle pip.